I think we can all agree that Minecraft's update have gotten more and more ambitious over the years, with some exceptions, changing some aspects of the game entirely, making it feel fresh. And unlike most games out there, people generally agree that Minecraft's update are beneficial for the game, and it's rarely a step back, even if the pill can be hard to swallow at first. But out of all these updates, one of them was not appreciated at all. The update I'm talking about is none other than the 1.9, the Combat update. The update was pretty big, but I will only talk about the changes that affected multiplayer servers, such as Hypixel, The Hive, Mineplex, etc. Because after all, when you look at all these servers, what stood out were the minigames, and their most recognizable minigames usually had a PvP aspect in it. Skywars for Hypixel, Micro Battles for Mineplex, Trouble in Mineville for The Hive, or UHC Run for Epicube. But what did 1.9 change to combat that made this such a big deal? Firstly, it added the dreaded weapon cooldown system. This change alone managed to screw the entire concept of PvP. Quick PvP lesson. In 1.8 and below, you have 3 blocks of reach, starting from the head, and hitting an opponent grants him half a second of intangibility, meaning that you can attack someone twice per second if you click fast enough. Not only does it make PvP feel fast, because you can attack fast, but it also lays down the foundation for the most important aspect of PvP, movement and positioning. Because if the reach starts from the head and is 3 blocks long, this means that having the low ground gives you an advantage, and it just so happens that when you get hit, you go up. I think you can already see where this is going. In this advantage states, if your opponent manages its movement and distance according to the intangible frames that you have, it can quite literally hit you when you can't, because it will be within reach unlike you. This is why techniques like W tapping, S tapping or block hitting are so important. Now if you add the attack cooldown, what do you think will happen? You will have to wait for the sword to go back up even if your opponent is no longer in intangible frames, meaning that he probably touched the ground and therefore cannot be comboed anymore, despite him being in a disadvantaged state. And even if you decide to hit him as soon as he's vulnerable, you will be missing out on damage. With swords, you can still combo somewhat, but the window to attack is not only incredibly small, but it's also dependent on exterior factors such as ping, if you have speed, or if the opponent has projectiles or not. Which begs the question of why? Why take something no one ever complained about and break it like this? And it's not like this was the only bad change made to combat. The damage values has been changed, and now a wooden axe is as powerful than a diamond sword. And yes, I know, it's slower, but material wise, don't you think one is a bit easier to obtain? Then they remove blocking with a sword in favor of adding a shield, which, you guessed it, makes the game even slower. There is no more thought process, you just hit, then cover yourself, then hit again when the attack cooldown is done. And the biggest offender has to be the healing system. It's a complete joke. Like, you're telling me that they nerfed enchanted golden apples because they were too strong, which, yeah, it was true, but why make a steak more effective than regular golden apples? For the price of 2 cows, you have an infinite supply of god healing. And let's not go over the different damage values and enchanting nerfs, because quite frankly, I still don't know what it did 7 years later. And besides, there is a lot of stuff to talk about, but those were the big ones. So let's put all of those things into perspective now. Combat is made slower with the shield and attack cooldown, weapon balancing has been thrown out the window, and there is barely any penalty for taking damage with the new healing system. So you just end up having combats that drag on for too long and are just not fun. They weren't already fun in 1.7, they aren't fun now. Heck, most 1.19 servers don't even use that healing system, it's that bad. This update didn't just change PvP, it butchered it. The only people benefiting from this combat update are the people that only play survival, and even then I wouldn't say that everything was beneficial, but that's a different story. My point being that the supposed combat update only had benefits for everything that isn't combat related. Of course, players' reaction were bitter, and servers had to make a decision which will plague them even to this day. Either switch to 1.9 or stay in 1.8. In both scenarios, they will be losing. By updating to 1.9, you annihilate a lot of your mini game's appeal and straight up make them worse. But if they decide to not update, they're losing potential to get new players because new players only experience the 1.9 combat style. Not only that, their ability to improve would be limited because they're missing on all their additions like the elytras, new blocks, totems of undying, and so on and so on. They try to combat this by making their servers old version compatible, where you can join them on higher versions just without the new addition. The problem with that is that by supporting new version compatibility, servers will encounter more bugs to fix and spend more cash, and besides, it was always better to play on the original version. Some of you are probably wondering why didn't it just update but add plugins and stuff to remove the attack cooldown? And well, the truth is that there's only so much that plugins or game rules can do. If you just remove the cooldown, hit registration and knockbacks gets impacted because of it, since it wasn't meant to be like this. You can't add proper sword blocking, so it becomes useless both offensively and defensively, and this alone is already enough to make the PvP worse. Besides, I've come to realize that adding a game rule to revert to old changes is just bad game design. Because at this point, where's the limit? When Minecraft introduced the hunger system, it wasn't appreciated at first, and if you added the game rule to allow both options, you just split the community in half. And this is the last thing you want to do. At the time, we really thought Mojang would just revert the changes because they saw the negative feedback, but they didn't. And it doesn't help that the people not concerned by those changes kept yapping their mouth about how 1.9 PvP is so much skillful because it adds strategy. And well, I'm just gonna let Legend answer that for me.
I do want to make fun of the people defending it though by saying, oh well, you see attack cooldown. It adds strategy to the game. Like, strategy? What strategy? You click on people to hit them with your Lego sword. Quit pretending this is chess.
If you couldn't tell, I'm extremely biased, and for good reasons. Why do you think Minecraft Bedrock Edition didn't update its combat mechanic like Java? Why do you think that Jeb is working on new combat systems to potentially add to newer versions? Why do you think that Minecraft servers that switched to 1.9 either died or reverted back or lost insane amount of popularity? Mojang isn't dumb. They saw that it wasn't the brightest idea, and now they are trying to subtly change that. Although it's very apparent that this isn't their priority, I think it's safe to say that we aren't getting a new combat revamp soon. But even if they were to change the combat mechanic, I doubt this will boost Minecraft servers' popularity to where they were before. After all, a lot of the big servers are dead. The Hive is dead, Epicube is also dead, CubeCraft is nowhere near what it used to be, and Mineplex... yeah, I think it's that. And well, yeah, I'm aware that 1.9 isn't solely responsible for all of this, but it would be dumb to deny its impact on those downfalls. If you play Minecraft on Bedrock Edition, you can still experience those servers, since most of them migrate towards Bedrock, since it has, you know, more players, old combat, and a proper monetization system. As for Java, it seems that Hypixel is the only relevant enough 1.8 server. There are a couple others, but they are relatively small, and the rest of the 1.9 combat servers are either non-PvP focused, or it's so laughably bad that it barely fills up. Maybe one day Mojang will reunite both players under a system that they can both enjoy. As for the time being, if I want to PvP, I'll stick to my men.